Matt, the gruesome new details in these court documents show the 16-year-old was allegedly shot and killed by the father of her child. Witnesses tell deputies the suspect claims he didn't mean to do it.
It was 10 p.m. on a Monday night in October 2022. A woman in Pine Hills, Orlando, was getting ready for bed when she heard it. A single gunshot, and a life was taken. Outside, in a driveway just houses away, lay 16-year-old De'Shayla Ferguson. She had been shot once in the head. 4 days earlier, she had celebrated her 16th birthday. Now, she was gone. And she wasn't alone. De'Shayla was 5 months pregnant with her first child, and the person who pulled the trigger? Her boyfriend, 17-year-old Lorenzo Larry, the father of her unborn baby. But here's what makes this case even more shocking. Lorenzo shouldn't have been on the streets that night. He had a history of violence. He had already killed before. He had been arrested multiple times for gun crimes. Yet somehow he was free. Welcome to Crazy Dark Files. Right now, there are thousands of young people like De'Shayla who are in relationships with dangerous partners, completely unaware of the violence hiding beneath the surface. If you want to help spread awareness about teen dating violence and the warning signs that could save innocent lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help protect another young person who might be in danger. So how exactly did a 17-year-old with a murder under his belt end up walking free? Let's get into the story. De'Shayla Ferguson was born on October 20, 2006 in Orlando, Florida. She was just 16 years old when her life was taken from her, only 4 days after her birthday. Those who knew De'Shayla described her as lovely, funny, and sweet. She was the kind of person who brought joy wherever she went. Happy and full of energy, De'Shayla had a way of making people smile. Her mother, Paula Davis, was her best friend. They did everything together. Davis called her daughter her riding buddy. Anytime she needed to go somewhere, De'Shayla was right there. She was always up for anything, Davis remembered. Anytime, "Come on, Shayla, let's ride." Here she was. De'Shayla loved her family deeply. She was close to her younger brother and spent hours playing PlayStation games with him. She never missed her sister's games, always showing up to cheer her on from the stands. Family meant everything to her. Like most teenagers, De'Shayla was active on social media. She loved TikTok, where she posted dance videos and funny content. In one popular video, she did a "put a finger down" challenge about things Black parents say. It was relatable and hilarious, showing off her sense of humor and personality. Her mother was active on TikTok too, and they often created content together. De'Shayla wore her natural hair with pride. For her, it was more than just a style. It was a statement of who she was. To anyone watching from the outside, De'Shayla was a normal teenager. She loved her family, enjoyed making videos, and had her whole life ahead of her. She was preparing to become a mother herself, carrying a baby girl she was excited to meet. But De'Shayla didn't know that this world could be cruel. She trusted people, she believed in love, and she believed the wrong person. She got involved with someone who seemed like he cared about her, someone who was about to become the father of her child. What she didn't know was that this person had a dark past, a violent past, a past that should have kept him locked away. By the time she realized the truth, it was already too late. On August 12, 2022, something happened that would change everything. That day, De'Shayla was at the Department of Children and Families office on South Kirkman Road in Orlando. According to an investigative report from the Orlando Police Department, she had been transported there from Seminole County. DCF workers were trying to find a placement for her.
August 12th, Orlando police respond to this Department of Children and Families office on South Kirkman Road, where a worker reports 16-year-old De'Shayla Ferguson missing. The police report says she was brought there to be given a family placement for the night as she had to appear in court the next day. She was involved in a human trafficking case in Orange County.
The reason? De'Shayla had a court date the very next day in connection with a human trafficking investigation in Orange County. This 16-year-old girl was clearly in trouble. She was vulnerable. She needed protection. She needed help. But then, according to the report, De'Shayla became combative, and she walked out of the facility. Just like that, she was gone.
They said she became argumentative and left. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children created this release with Ferguson's picture on it, yet she remained missing for 73 days.
Let that sink in for a moment. A 16-year-old girl involved in a human trafficking investigation, a minor who was supposed to be in the care of the state, simply walked out of a DCF facility. No one stopped her. No one could find her. How does that happen? How does a vulnerable teenager just leave a state facility unsupervised? When the media asked the DCF for answers, a spokesperson said they were working on a response. Days passed. A week went by. Then another. But no response ever came. No explanation. No accountability. Just silence. Paula Davis had no idea where her daughter had gone. When De'Shayla didn't come home, Davis reported her missing. She was desperate for answers, praying her best friend would walk through the door. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children posted a missing persons flyer with De'Shayla's photo. Authorities searched for leads, but there was nothing. No calls, no sightings, no clues. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. For 73 agonizing days, Paula Davis waited. She didn't know if her daughter was safe. She didn't know if she was eating. She didn't know if she was alive. What Davis didn't know, what no one knew at the time, was that De'Shayla was 5 months pregnant. She was living on the streets of Orlando, believing she had found love with the father of her baby. His name was Lorenzo Larry. He was 17 years old, and he had already killed someone. De'Shayla thought she was building a future with Lorenzo. She thought he would be there for her and their baby. She had no idea that just months earlier he had shot a 23-year-old woman in the head and left her to die in her car. She didn't know that he had been arrested multiple times for carrying guns.
We have to acknowledge that someone who amasses this many charges and is responsible for the killing of 2 women and an unborn child needs to be behind bars for a very, very long time.
She didn't know that he had admitted to murder, but was still walking free. For 73 days, De'Shayla was missing. For 73 days, she was with a killer. And no one, not the police, not the DCF, not anyone could find her in time. By the time they did, it would be too late. Lorenzo Larry was only 17 years old when he killed De'Shayla Ferguson, but by that age he had already built a criminal history that would shock most people. It started in February 2021, when Lorenzo was just 15 years old. He was arrested for carrying a concealed firearm and for violating probation. Both charges were felonies, serious crimes that should have had serious consequences. But on December 8, 2021, those charges were dropped. Just like that, Lorenzo was free to go. That same day, December 8, 2021, something terrible happened. A 23-year-old woman named Jemiel Pittman was found shot to death inside her car. Her vehicle was stopped in the area of Rio Grande Avenue and Briarly Court. She had been shot once in the head. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital, but she didn't make it. Homicide detectives began investigating, and the evidence pointed to one person, Lorenzo Larry. According to authorities, Lorenzo had shot Jemiel in her car and then fled the scene. He got rid of the gun. Then he ran all the way to another state. When investigators finally tracked him down and interviewed him, Lorenzo admitted to shooting Jemiel Pittman, but he had an excuse. He claimed it was self-defense. Now think about that for a second. He shot someone in the head. He ran from the scene. He threw away the murder weapon. He fled to another state. And then he said it was self-defense. Because Lorenzo claimed self-defense, the case was sent to the state attorney's office for review. They needed to decide whether to charge him or not. That review was completed in July 2022. But here's the problem. By October 2022, months later, the state attorney's office still hadn't made a decision. No charges had been filed. Lorenzo was still free, and it gets worse. In May 2022, while the Jemiel Pittman case was still under review, Lorenzo was arrested again. This time it was for another slew of gun charges. During this arrest, detectives interviewed him about the Pittman murder. He admitted to it again, but still no charges were filed. Then, in July 2022, Lorenzo was arrested yet again, this time for even more gun charges. So let's recap. Lorenzo had admitted to shooting someone in the head. He had been arrested twice more for illegally carrying guns, and yet he was still walking the streets. Both the May gun case and the July gun case were set for trial. But Lorenzo wasn't locked up while waiting for those trials. He was free, out in the community, carrying guns, living his life. And during this time, while he should have been behind bars, Lorenzo met De'Shayla Ferguson. He started a relationship with her, and he got her pregnant. De'Shayla had no idea who she was dealing with. She didn't know that her boyfriend had killed before. She didn't know about his arrests. She didn't know that he was a danger to everyone around him. At 17 years old, Lorenzo Larry had racked up a criminal history that most 70-year-olds don't have. He had a murder under his belt, multiple gun arrests, and he was still free. When Lorenzo was finally arrested for killing De'Shayla, Orange County Sheriff John Mina held a press conference, and he didn't hold back his frustration. "You have heard me say time and time again that no one gets into this profession to arrest kids, especially for low-level offenses," Mina said. "But that's not the case here. Those juveniles who are out there carrying guns, committing violent crimes in our community, that doesn't apply to them." Then he said something that hit hard. "We have to acknowledge that someone who amasses this many gun charges and is responsible for the killing of 2 women and an unborn child needs to be behind bars for a very, very long time for the safety of this community." Sheriff Mina was right. This was a pattern of violence that was completely ignored. Lorenzo Larry should never have been free. He should have been locked up after Jemiel Pittman's murder. He should have been locked up after his first gun arrest in May. He should have been locked up after his second gun arrest in July. But he wasn't, and because of that, De'Shayla Ferguson and her unborn baby are dead. This is where the system failed catastrophically. What do you think should happen to repeat offenders like Lorenzo? Should juveniles with multiple gun charges and admitted homicides be allowed to walk free? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear your perspective on this. The truth is, this tragedy could have been prevented. Every warning sign was there. Every red flag was waving. But no one acted in time. De'Shayla thought she had found true love. She was 16, pregnant, and believed that Lorenzo was going to be there for her and their baby. She had no idea about the violence in his past. She didn't know he had killed before. In fact, things seemed to be going well between them. According to Lorenzo's own statements to detectives, the couple had recently held a gender reveal party. They were celebrating their unborn child, planning for the future, and acting like any young couple expecting a baby. But beneath the surface, there were problems. The day before the shooting, Lorenzo and De'Shayla got into an argument. They were fighting about the baby's paternity, whether Lorenzo was really the father. That tension carried over into the next day, October 24, 2022. It was just 4 days after De'Shayla's 16th birthday. That night, Lorenzo and De'Shayla argued again. The fight got heated, and then it turned violent. Lorenzo slapped De'Shayla across the face. According to Lorenzo's confession to detectives, De'Shayla didn't back down. She looked at him and said, "What you gonna do? What you gonna do?" That's when Lorenzo raised his gun and pointed it at her. In his interview with police, Lorenzo claimed he thought the safety on the gun was on. He said the gun slipped in his hand and then it fired.
New details about the murder of a teenage girl and her unborn child. An interrogation video shows the suspect confessing to investigators and telling them that it was a freak accident.
De'Shayla was shot once in the head. Lorenzo told detectives it was an accident. It was a freak accident, he said. There's no premeditated murder. But the detective interviewing him wasn't buying it. He asked Lorenzo a question that cut right through his story. So you've accidentally shot and killed two females, both of them shot in the head. How do you keep finding yourself in these situations? Lorenzo's only response? I know.
So you've accidentally shot and killed two females, both of them shot in the head. How do you keep finding yourself in these situations?
When asked if he felt bad about what happened, Lorenzo said, because of my child and De'Shayla. It's an accident, a freak accident. After shooting De'Shayla, Lorenzo didn't call for help. He didn't try to save her. He ran. According to his statement, there were multiple people around when it happened, and one of them allegedly hid the gun for him. Then Lorenzo fled the scene, leaving De'Shayla to die in a driveway. The similarities between this murder and Jamila Pittman's murder are impossible to ignore. Both women were shot in the head. Both were left in the open. Jamila in her car, De'Shayla in a driveway. Both times Lorenzo ran from the scene. Both times he got rid of the gun, and both times he had an excuse. First it was self-defense, now it was an accident. But here's the thing, when you shoot two different women in the head, flee the scene both times, and dispose of the weapon both times, it's hard to believe anything you say. Lorenzo Larry had a pattern, and that pattern was violence. De'Shayla Ferguson trusted him. She loved him. She was carrying his child, and he killed her. It was approximately 10 p.m. on October 24, 2022, when a neighbor on Broken Pine Circle heard a single gunshot. She was getting ready for bed when the sound broke through the quiet night.
I heard one shot, boom. So I stayed quiet, because sometimes you worry for more or something like that. So I don't hear nothing more. They only heard some people screaming. That's it.
This woman, Maria, lives just down the road. She said after the shot rang out, she stepped outside to see what happened.
She had no idea what had just happened, just houses away from her. Outside, in a driveway on the 5300 block of Broken Pine Circle in Pine Hills, De'Shayla Ferguson lay dead. She had been shot once in the head. She was 20 weeks pregnant. Paula Davis was at work when she got the call that every parent dreads, the call that changes everything. I rushed over, Davis later recalled, and yeah, that's when I saw my daughter laid out on the ground. Can you even begin to understand what that must have felt like? To arrive at a scene and see your own child, your best friend, your riding buddy, lying there, gone, forever? Davis stood at that scene for hours. She stared at her daughter's body on the ground, but she couldn't hold her. She couldn't touch her. She couldn't say goodbye the way a mother should. I was angry, I was hurt, Davis said. I couldn't even go and hold her. It's just really painful. No parent should have to witness that. For 73 days, Paula Davis had been searching for her daughter. For 73 days, she had been praying De'Shayla would come home. And now she had found her. But not the way she had hoped. De'Shayla was dead, and so was her unborn baby. The community was heartbroken. Neighbors who spoke to the media said they were devastated by the news. This kind of violence wasn't supposed to happen on their street. Not to a 16-year-old girl, not to a pregnant teenager who had her whole life ahead of her. Investigators immediately began working to identify De'Shayla's killer. They were trying to figure out why she was in that neighborhood in the first place. They were searching for answers, but for more than 10 days, very little information was released to the public. When reporters asked Orange County Sheriff John Mina about the case at a news conference, he said his homicide detectives were working on it, but there wasn't much he could share yet. When asked about the search for her killer, Mina said they had received several leads but couldn't say more. A week and a half after De'Shayla's body was found, investigators finally confirmed what many had suspected. She was pregnant when she was killed. Paula Davis had lost her daughter. She had lost her unborn grandchild. and she had been forced to see her baby girl lying dead in a driveway, unable to even hold her one last time. No mother should ever have to go through that. On November 14, 2022, 3 weeks after De'Shayla's murder, Lorenzo Larry was arrested. He was charged with second-degree murder and killing an unborn child by injury to the mother. Orange County Sheriff John Mina held a press conference to announce the arrest, and he had a lot to say. First, Mina addressed rumors that had been going around. Some people believed De'Shayla's murder was connected to the human trafficking investigation she had been involved in back in August. But Mina made it clear there was no connection. There is no nexus to the murder, Mina said. This was a domestic violence incident between De'Shayla and Lorenzo Larry. Then Mina laid out Lorenzo's criminal history for everyone to hear. He talked about the February 2021 arrest when Lorenzo was 15. He talked about the charges being dropped on December 8, 2021, the same day Jamil Pittman was murdered. He explained how Lorenzo admitted to shooting Pittman but claimed self-defense. Mina also explained why Lorenzo hadn't been charged in Pittman's case yet. When someone claims self-defense, the case has to be reviewed by the state attorney's office. That review was completed in July 2022. But by October, when De'Shayla was killed, the state attorney's office still hadn't made a decision. You could hear the frustration in Mina's voice. He wasn't just upset, he was angry. Angry that a 17-year-old with this kind of history was walking free. Angry that the system had failed. This whole community should be grieving for De'Shayla Ferguson and her family and her unborn baby, Mina said. He was right. This wasn't just a tragedy for Paula Davis, it was a tragedy for everyone. During the press conference, reporters were shown parts of Lorenzo's video interview with detectives. The interview lasted over 2 hours. At first, Lorenzo denied everything, but eventually he confessed. He admitted to shooting De'Shayla. He claimed it was an accident. He said the gun slipped. He said he thought the safety was on, but the detectives weren't convinced, and neither was anyone else. At one point during the interview, Lorenzo's mother was brought into the room. When she saw her son sitting there, accused of murder, she broke down. "Baby, baby, baby," she cried. "You didn't mean to." It was a heartbreaking moment, a mother trying to believe her son couldn't have done something so terrible, but the evidence said otherwise. Despite his confession, Lorenzo pleaded not guilty to the charges. His case moved forward through the court system. If convicted as an adult, Lorenzo faced a potential life sentence, and according to reports, the state attorney's office was expected to charge him as an adult. Sheriff Mina made it clear that this was the right move. Lorenzo Larry wasn't just some kid who made a mistake. He was a repeat offender with a history of violence. He had killed before, and now he had killed again. Someone who amasses this many gun charges and is responsible for the killing of 2 women and an unborn child needs to be behind bars for a very, very long time, Mina said. Justice was finally being pursued, but it came too late for De'Shayla Ferguson and her unborn baby. The system had failed them, and now they were gone. Losing a child is a pain no parent should ever have to endure. For Paula Davis, the grief was unbearable, but she knew she had to find a way to keep going. For De'Shayla, and for the memory of her unborn grandchild, Davis turned to counseling and therapy to help her process the trauma. She leaned on prayer and her faith, and she found comfort in the support of her community, who rallied around her during the darkest time of her life. In Pine Hills, a beautiful mural was painted in De'Shayla's honor. The artwork captured her spirit, her smile, her energy, her life. For Paula Davis, that mural became a place of peace. "I pass by it a lot just to look at it," Davis said. It was a way for her to feel close to her daughter, a way to remember the girl who loved to dance, who made people laugh, and who was taken far too soon. Davis also made sure that De'Shayla's unborn baby would never be forgotten. She named her grandchild Baby Girl Ferguson. Even though the baby never got the chance to take her first breath, she mattered, she was loved, and she would be remembered. When speaking to the media, Paula Davis made a heartfelt plea to the public. Please remember my baby as the beautiful, loving, caring, funny, talented, dancing daughter that she is.
It came out so beautiful. We love it. We love it. I pass by it a lot just to look at it.
Now she hopes whenever people see this, they'll stop and they'll think of the memories with De'Shayla.
Please remember my baby as the beautiful, loving, caring, funny, talented, dancing daughter that she is.
Davis didn't want people to only think of De'Shayla as a victim. She wanted the world to know who her daughter really was. The girl who was always ready to ride. The girl who played PlayStation with her little brother. The girl who never missed her sister's games. The girl who lit up every room she walked into. De'Shayla Ferguson was more than a headline. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a soon-to-be mother. She had dreams, she had a future, and all of that was stolen from her. Paula Davis was determined to honor both lives lost, her daughter and her grandchild. And the community stood with her. They mourned together, they remembered together, and they vowed never to forget De'Shayla Ferguson. Her memory lives on in that mural, in her mother's heart, and in the hearts of everyone who knew her story. De'Shayla Ferguson's death was a tragedy, but it was also preventable. Multiple systems failed her, and we need to talk about what went wrong and how to fix it. Lorenzo Larry was arrested at age 15 for carrying a concealed firearm and violating probation. Those charges were dropped. He admitted to killing Jamil Pittman, but for months no charges were filed. He was arrested twice more for gun crimes in May and July 2022, yet he remained free. This pattern shows a dangerous reluctance to hold violent juveniles accountable. When someone has this kind of history, they should not be walking the streets. On August 12, 2022, De'Shayla walked out of a Department of Children and Families facility. She was 16 years old, vulnerable, and involved in a human trafficking investigation. How was she able to leave unsupervised? When the media asked DCF for answers, they got silence. No transparency, no explanation. This points to serious gaps in security and supervision. Vulnerable youth in state care deserve better protection. De'Shayla was missing for 73 days with limited progress in finding her. When a teenager, especially one connected to a trafficking investigation, goes missing, the response needs to be faster and more aggressive. Every day matters. Every hour counts. So what can be done to prevent tragedies like this in the future? First, there needs to be stronger accountability for repeat offenders. If someone is arrested multiple times for violent crimes, they should not be released back into the community. Second, vulnerable youth in state care need enhanced protection. Facilities must have better security and supervision to prevent teens from walking out unsupervised. Third, we need more education on relationship violence warning signs. Young people need to know what healthy relationships look like and what red flags to watch for. Fourth, gun violence prevention is critical. Violent juveniles should not have access to firearms, period. Fifth, better communication and coordination between agencies is essential. Police, DCF, the state attorney's office, and other organizations need to work together to protect at-risk youth. Finally, domestic violence intervention programs for teens can help stop violence before it escalates. De'Shayla's story is a wake-up call. The warning signs were there. The system had multiple chances to intervene, but it didn't. And now, 2 lives are gone. We owe it to De'Shayla and baby girl Ferguson to do better. De'Shayla Ferguson was just 16 years old. She should have been preparing for motherhood. She should have been picking out baby clothes, setting up a nursery, and dreaming about her daughter's future. Instead, she was lying in a driveway, her life stolen from her. And recognizing her own trauma, her death represents a complete failure of the systems that were supposed to protect vulnerable youth. Sheriff John Mina said it best. This whole community should be grieving for De'Shayla Ferguson and her family and her unborn baby. He's right. We should all be grieving. But grief alone is not enough. We must demand change. We need accountability. We need transparency. We need better protection for at-risk youth. We need to break cycles of violence before they claim more victims. De'Shayla's story is a wake-up call. The warning signs were everywhere. The system had every opportunity to intervene, but it didn't. And now 2 precious lives are gone. We can honor De'Shayla's memory by demanding action and reform, by making sure no other mother has to stand at a crime scene staring at her child's body, unable to hold her. Paula Davis has shown incredible strength in the face of unimaginable loss. She wants the world to remember her daughter, not just as a victim, but as the beautiful, loving, caring, funny, talented dancing girl that she was. The TikToker, the PlayStation gamer, the sister who never missed a game, the daughter who was always ready to ride, and baby girl Ferguson who never got the chance to take her first breath, to feel her mother's arms, or to experience life. De'Shayla's story needs to be heard. If this case moved you, if you believe in justice for her and baby girl Ferguson, please share this video. Hit that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts on how we can prevent tragedies like this, and subscribe so you never miss when we cover important cases that demand attention. Together, we can be voices for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Rest in peace, De'Shayla Ferguson and baby girl Ferguson. Your lives mattered. Your story matters, and we will not forget you.